insults Keanu Reeves at a luxury restaurant, not knowing he owns the restaurant. It was a glamorous evening at La Lumiere, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Los Angeles. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, soft jazz played in the background, and the air was filled with the rich aroma of gourmet dishes. Sandra Bullock, a hard-working and sharp-tongued waitress, was in the middle of a stressful shift. She had been running from table to table, taking orders from wealthy guests who barely acknowledged her existence. The final straw came when a tall, bearded man in a black suit casually strolled in and took a seat at a corner table. He looked strangely familiar, but Sandra didn't have time to dwell on it. As she approached, he was studying the menu with a thoughtful expression. "Good evening, sir. What would you like to order?" she asked, forcing a polite smile. Keanu Reeves looked up and smiled warmly. "Hey, no rush. Take your time. You look like you're having a busy night." Sandra let out a sigh. "Oh, you think? Try running around serving people who don't even look at you while wearing heels that feel like medieval torture devices." Keanu chuckled, but Sandra wasn't done. "And let me guess, you're one of those customers. The ones who take forever to order, ask for something off menu, and then complain about the price." Keanu raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Actually, I was just about to order the chef's special." Sandra rolled her eyes. "Finally, a decision. Would you like anything to drink, or do you need another 20 minutes to think about that too?" A few nearby customers gasped at her attitude, but Keanu only grinned. "Water's fine, and, you have quite the personality." "Oh, you have no idea," Sandra muttered before spinning on her heel and marching off. A few moments later, the restaurant manager, a nervous-looking man in a tuxedo, rushed over to Sandra with panic written all over his face. "Are you insane?" he hissed. Sandra frowned. "What now?" "Do you know who that is?" the manager asked, motioning toward Keanu. Sandra glanced back at the table. "Some rich dude with a nice suit." The manager nearly fainted. "That's Keanu Reeves, the owner of this restaurant." Sandra froze. "Wait, what?" Just then, Keanu got up and walked toward them, hands in his pockets, that same friendly smile still on his face. "Hey," he said, looking at Sandra. "I just wanted to say that was amazing." Sandra blinked. "Huh? I own a lot of restaurants," Keanu explained, "and in most of them the staff is so stiff and formal. But you're real. You say what's on your mind, it's refreshing." Sandra stared at him, unsure whether she was about to get fired or offered a promotion. "So, you're not going to fire me?" Keanu shook his head. "No way. In fact, I think we should have dinner together. Off the clock, of course." Sandra laughed, crossing her arms. "Let me get this straight. I insult you and now you want to have dinner with me?" Keanu smirked. "What can I say? I like a woman with attitude." Sandra eyed him suspiciously. Then, with a playful grin, she shrugged. "Fine, but you're paying." Keanu laughed. "Deal." And just like that, what started as an evening of frustration turned into an unexpected and unforgettable night. Hope you like it. Here's the continuation of the story. A beautiful waitress gets angry and insults Keanu Reeves at a luxury restaurant, not knowing he owns the restaurant. Part 2. Later that night, after her shift ended, Sandra swapped her waitress uniform for a sleek black dress. She wasn't the type to get nervous, but sitting across from Keanu Reeves, her boss at the very restaurant she worked at, was definitely a first. Keanu had arranged for a private table on the rooftop, where the city lights twinkled below. A soft breeze carried the scent of jasmine, and a bottle of the finest wine sat between them. Sandra leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "So tell me, Mr. Billionaire Actor Restaurant Owner, why exactly did you want to have dinner with me? Are you secretly a fan of getting insulted?" Keanu chuckled. "Not exactly. I just like people who aren't afraid to be themselves." He took a sip of his wine. "Most people treat me differently once they realize who I am. You didn't." Sandra smirked. "Yeah, because I thought you were just some random dude wasting my time." Keanu laughed. "And I loved that. You're honest. No filter. It's rare." Sandra tilted her head, studying him. "You're not what I expected. You own this place and who knows what else, but you're still normal." Keanu shrugged. "I try to be. Money doesn't change who I am. It just lets me tip really well." Sandra laughed, shaking her head. Alright, I'll admit, you're kinda cool, but let's get one thing straight. If you ever come in during my shift again, you're getting the same treatment. No VIP nonsense. Keanu grinned. Deal, but only if you agree to go on another dinner with me. Sandra raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me out, Mr. Reeves? Keanu leaned in slightly, his smile warm and genuine. I think I am. She pretended to think about it, tapping her chin. I don't usually date my bosses, Keanu smirked. Then I guess I'll have to resign as your boss. Sandra burst out laughing. Okay, now you're smooth. Fine, Mr. Reeves. One more dinner, but if you start acting like a spoiled celebrity, I'm out. Noted, Keanu said with a grin. As the night went on, the two talked, laughed and shared stories. What started as an awkward encounter turned into something neither of them expected, something real. And just like that, Sandra Bullock, the sharp-tongued waitress, and Keanu Reeves, the world-famous star, found themselves at the beginning of something truly special. The end, or just the beginning? What do you think? Should we continue their story? A beautiful waitress gets angry and insults Keanu Reeves at a luxury restaurant, not knowing he owns the restaurant. Part 3. The days after that rooftop dinner felt strangely normal, but also not normal, for Sandra. She continued working at La Lumiere, still delivering sarcastic comebacks and sharp-witted remarks to difficult customers, but now there was one difference. Keanu Reeves kept showing up. Not in an over-the-top billionaire stalker way, but in a quiet, casual way. Sometimes he'd sit in the corner, watching her with amusement as she scolded a rude customer. Other times he'd just leave an absurdly large tip with a little note. One day she picked up the bill from his table and saw his handwriting. You still give the best insults. Hope this covers the pain of your medieval torture shoes. K. Underneath it was a $1,000 tip. Sandra rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the smile creeping onto her lips. That night, as she left the restaurant, she found Keanu waiting outside, leaning against his sleek black motorcycle. Okay, Mr. Mysterious, she said, crossing her arms. Are you just going to keep hanging around my workplace like some kind of rich, handsome ghost? Keanu grinned. I was hoping you'd say yes to another dinner. Sandra raised an eyebrow. 2 dinners in 1 week. That's practically a relationship. Are we dating now? Keanu shrugged. Maybe. She smirked. You're way too smooth, you know that? I've been told. She glanced at the motorcycle. You do realize I'm not getting on that death trap, right? Keanu held up a helmet. I figured you'd say that. That's why I brought this. For you. Sandra sighed, shaking her head. Fine, but if I die, I'm haunting you forever. Keanu chuckled. Deal. They rode through the city, the cool night air whipping past them as Sandra clung to him, more than she wanted to admit. He took her to a quiet little diner. Nothing fancy, just a cozy spot with the best burgers and fries in town. Over milkshakes, they talked about life, movies, embarrassing childhood stories and their worst restaurant experiences. Keanu was easy to talk to, surprisingly down to earth, effortlessly funny and completely unpretentious. At one point, Sandra leaned in, studying him. You're seriously one of the nicest guys I've ever met. How the hell have you survived Hollywood? Keanu smiled, by remembering what really matters. She smirked. And what's that? He looked at her, his gaze steady. Good people, real connections, and great burgers. Sandra laughed, shaking her head. You're ridiculous, but I like it. As the night wore on, she realized something she never expected. She really liked being around him. Maybe this was the start of something. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't mind it one bit. To be continued. Should we keep going? Maybe introduce some drama or a plot twist. A beautiful waitress gets angry and insults Keanu Reeves at a luxury restaurant, not knowing he owns the restaurant. Part 4. For the next few weeks, Sandra and Keanu fell into an easy rhythm. He'd randomly show up at La Lumiere, sometimes alone, sometimes with a few celebrity friends. Each time he'd leave a ridiculously large tip with a sarcastic note, just to mess with her. One night, she found, for enduring another night of overpriced food and snooty customers. Hang in there. She shook her head but pocketed the tip. If he keeps this up, I'll be able to retire early. But just as Sandra was getting used to this strange, fun and oddly romantic routine, reality came crashing in. The trouble begins. One evening she arrived at work to find a commotion near the entrance. Paparazzi swarmed the sidewalk, their cameras flashing like crazy. At first, she thought it was some big-time celebrity coming in, but then she caught snippets of conversation. Is it true, Sandra? Are you dating Keanu Reeves? Did he buy you expensive gifts? Is this a Cinderella story or a scandal? Her stomach dropped. She turned to see her manager, his face pale. What the hell did you do? I what? Sandra stammered. He shoved a gossip magazine into her hands. Right on the cover was a photo of her and Keanu, taken from the night they rode off on his motorcycle. The headline, Keanu Reeves' secret girlfriend, luxury restaurant waitress or gold digger. Sandra felt heat rise in her face. Are you kidding me? She stormed through the restaurant and out the back exit, pulling out her phone. She had one person to call. Keanu picked up on the first ring. Hey Sandra, I was just about to... Keanu, what the hell? She snapped. There was a pause. Okay, I'm guessing you saw the tabloids. Oh, you mean the ones calling me a gold digger? Yeah, kinda hard to miss, Keanu sighed. I'm so sorry, I swear I didn't say anything to the press. Sandra groaned, pacing back and forth. This is insane. They're camped outside my job, my manager is freaking out, and now my coworkers think I'm some kind of sugar baby. I can fix this, Keanu said. Let's meet and talk. Just then a door swung open behind her. She turned to see another waitress, Emily, smirking. So it is true, Emily sneered. Little Miss Tough Girl landed a rich guy and kept it secret from us. Sandra clenched her jaw. It's not like that. Sure, Emily folded her arms. Look, I don't blame you. If I had a chance to cozy up to a millionaire, I'd do it too. That was it. Sandra lost it. You know what, Emily, if I was really a gold digger, I wouldn't be here busting my ass serving you and the rest of these customers every night. Emily blinked, startled. Sandra pointed at the kitchen. Now, get out of my face before I dump an entire plate of spaghetti on your head. Emily huffed and walked away, but Sandra's hands were still shaking. Keanu's voice came through the phone. Wow, Sandra groaned. You heard all that, didn't you? Every word, he chuckled. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Sandra sighed. Keanu, I don't know if I can handle this. I didn't sign up for Hollywood drama. There was silence for a moment. Then Keanu spoke, softer this time. Meet me tonight, let's talk. She exhaled, rubbing her forehead. Fine, but this better be good, a bigger problem. That night Sandra met Keanu at a quiet rooftop bar, somewhere far from the paparazzi. He was already waiting for her with 2 drinks. She sat down, arms crossed. All right, Mr. Movie Star, explain. Keanu leaned forward. Sandra, I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, I don't care what the tabloids say, and neither should you. Easy for you to say, she muttered. You've been dealing with this your whole life. I just wanted a normal job and a normal life. Now people think I'm chasing after your money. Keanu reached across the table, gently taking her hand. Listen to me. I like you. Not because you're some fancy celebrity, not because you have money, but because you're you. Sandra looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. He smiled. And if you want, I can make this whole thing disappear. She frowned. What do you mean? Keanu sat back. I can have my PR team release a statement, say we're just friends, the press will move on. Sandra hesitated. Was that what she wanted? She looked at Keanu, the guy who made her laugh, who treated her like an equal, who showed up just to annoy her in the best way possible. She realized something. She didn't want to pretend this wasn't real. Sandra sighed, running a hand through her hair. You know what? Let them talk. Keanu's eyebrows raised. Yeah, she smirked. But if we're gonna do this, I have 2 conditions. Keanu grinned. Name them. 1, you keep tipping me ridiculously at work just to piss off my coworkers. Keanu chuckled. Done. And the second, Sandra leaned in, her eyes twinkling. You officially take me on a real date. None of this casual burger stuff. I want romance, Reeves, the full Hollywood leading man experience. Keanu laughed, nodding. Challenge accepted. And just like that, Sandra Bullock, the sharp-tongued waitress, and Keanu Reeves, the world-famous star, went from an accidental scandal to something much, much more. Want more? Maybe a really dramatic twist?